What if everything you believed about love turned out to be a lie? That's the question that has haunted Prince Harry every sleepless night as he lies awake in the dark, the California moonlight casting sharp edges across his Montecito bedroom. Alone. Silent. No Meghan beside him. Just his thoughts, and the sinking realization that the woman he gave up his family, his country, his royal title for, may have never truly loved him at all. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I'm divorcing Meghan Markle. Those were the 6 words no one thought they'd hear. Not from Harry. Not from the man who defied centuries of royal tradition, who cut ties with his brother, who flew halfway across the world to start fresh. But here we are. To understand this moment, we have to go back. Not just to the glamour and fairy tale of Harry and Meghan's wedding, not just to the Netflix specials, Oprah interviews, or Archwell launches, but to the boy Harry once was. The boy walking behind his mother's casket, his fists clenched at his sides, his head bowed under a storm of cameras and strangers' grief. That boy grew up with one unshakable need: to protect the woman he loved, to protect her in a way no one had protected his mother. So when Meghan Markle came into his life, dazzling, warm, outspoken, independent, Harry saw light. She was the answer to every scar. She saw him, he thought. Not the prince, not the soldier, not the headline, but the man. The broken man. But what happens when love and ambition are so closely intertwined that you can no longer tell them apart? Friends close to Harry describe him as mesmerized in the early days. Meghan was unlike anyone the royals had ever seen. A biracial American actress with charisma, political savvy, and media smarts. She wasn't intimidated by palace walls. She questioned them. She wasn't shy with the press. She knew how to shape them. And Harry, for a time, was her fiercest champion. Against tabloids, against royal aides, against his own family. But now, after years of escalating tension, media wars, family estrangements, and high-profile deals, Harry says he's come to a devastating realization. She used me to launch her empire, he allegedly confided to a close friend. I see it now. This video isn't just about the announcement of divorce. It's about the unseen journey to this breaking point, the subtle shifts, the private doubts, the accumulating signs Harry tried for years to ignore. It's about a love story that enchanted the world, and why, behind closed doors, it may have unraveled long before anyone saw the cracks. We will take you deep inside the rise and fall of Harry and Meghan's relationship, not as a gossip tale, but as a human one. How does someone go from the happiest day of their life, watched by millions, to sitting alone in a kitchen at 3 a.m., wondering if they were played all along? What were the warning signs Harry missed? Did Meghan truly marry him for love, or was it always a stepping stone to global fame? What role did the media play in pushing them together and pulling them apart? And perhaps most painfully, how does a man who has already lost his mother, his home, and his identity face losing his wife too? This is not a story of villains and victims. It's a story of 2 people navigating love, power, and the crushing weight of public life. And it's a story that, no matter where you stand on Harry and Meghan, will make you ask, would I have seen the truth any sooner? As we dive in, we'll trace the meteoric rise of Meghan Markle, the woman who captured Harry's heart, and arguably his fate. We'll look at the whirlwind romance, the royal tensions, the moments of triumph, and the whispers of betrayal. We'll explore the businesses, the brands, the lucrative deals that turned the Sussexes from a royal couple into a global juggernaut. And we'll unpack the private turmoil that, in Harry's words, led to one of the most painful decisions of his life. But first, let's pause. Before the fame, before the cameras, before the heartbreak, picture Harry, not as the prince, but as the boy, 12 years old, walking through streets lined with mourners, his mother's death an open wound across the world stage. Picture the trauma, the unresolved grief, the desperate longing to protect, to save, to do for someone else what no one could do for her. This is the Harry Meghan met. This is the man she fell in love with. Or, as some claim, the man she strategically attached herself to. As you watch this story unfold, I invite you to think carefully. How much of love is love? And how much is timing, opportunity, image, need? Because by the time we reach the moment Harry utters those 6 words, I'm divorcing Meghan Markle. We will not be watching a man betrayed only by his wife. We will be watching a man betrayed by his own blind hope. So stay with us. In the next chapters, we will peel back each layer of this astonishing breakup. The secrets, the signs, the sacrifices, and the shattering cost of realizing the truth too late. The scene was set on a warm London evening in 2016. In a private club nestled between historic streets, a prince awaited his guest with uncharacteristic nerves. Prince Harry, forever the spare to Prince William's heir, forever defined by public tragedy and royal expectations, was about to meet Meghan Markle, an American actress whose name meant little in the halls of Buckingham Palace, but who would soon become his entire world. From the very first conversation, friends say the chemistry was undeniable. Meghan laughed easily. She listened intently. She radiated warmth and self-assurance, qualities that seemed to draw Harry in immediately. For a man who had spent much of his life behind guarded gates, scrutinized by a ruthless press, her open, American frankness was intoxicating. Their romance progressed at breakneck speed, marked by secret rendezvous in London and Botswana, long transatlantic phone calls, and private moments that Harry would later describe as some of the happiest of his life. For Meghan, it was a whirlwind introduction to a world of unimaginable privilege and protocol. For Harry, it was something far deeper, a chance at the kind of love he had watched slip through his mother's fingers, a love he was determined to protect at all costs. But it didn't take long for the fairy tale sheen to be tested by reality. The British tabloids smelled blood. Meghan, a divorced, biracial actress from Los Angeles, was a figure ripe for exploitation and scrutiny. Harry's protective instincts kicked into overdrive. Just months after they met, he issued an extraordinary statement through Kensington Palace condemning the wave of abuse and harassment Meghan was facing, calling out not just the paparazzi, but the racist and sexist undertones of much of the media coverage. It was an unprecedented move for a royal. In the House of Windsor, discretion is prized above all else. But Harry didn't care. He was already deeply invested in protecting Meghan, emotionally and publicly, in ways he had felt his mother had not been protected. As their relationship became public, so too did their dynamic. Meghan was elegant, poised, charismatic. Harry seemed happiest when by her side, his hand tightly clasping hers in moments both grand and small. To many, they were a symbol of a modern monarchy, one that could evolve beyond the stiff, outdated traditions that had defined it for centuries. When Harry proposed, the engagement was met with widespread enthusiasm. Meghan's introduction to royal life was framed as a breath of fresh air, a woman of mixed heritage, an accomplished actress, a feminist advocate joining a royal family long perceived as insular and archaic. Their wedding at Windsor Castle was broadcast to a worldwide audience. Every detail was analyzed, celebrated, and praised. The gospel choir singing "Stand By Me," the Bishop Michael Curry's impassioned sermon, the multicultural symbolism woven throughout the day. It all seemed to signify a new era for the monarchy. Yet, even on that joyous day, those closest to the couple sensed that beneath the surface, there were cracks. Palace staff spoke in hushed tones about Meghan's high standards and demanding nature. Some aides described her as difficult, while others admired her drive and focus. For Harry, none of this mattered. He was besotted. He was a man deeply in love, willing to move mountains to make Meghan happy, even if it meant alienating parts of his own family. In those early days, he was also at odds with his brother, Prince William. Insiders say William cautioned Harry to slow down, to consider the speed and intensity of the relationship. Harry bristled at the suggestion, interpreting it as an insult not just to Meghan, but to his own judgment. The rift that would eventually become so public had already begun to take shape. Still, the couple pressed forward, seemingly determined to write their own script. Meghan embraced her new royal role with confidence, appearing at engagements with ease, championing causes related to gender equality, mental health, and diversity. But behind palace doors, there was friction. Royal life is governed by rules, protocols, expectations, many of which seemed to chafe against Meghan's American sensibilities and her independent spirit. She reportedly struggled with the relentless scrutiny, the invasive press coverage, and the limitations placed upon her by tradition. And Harry, ever the protector, found himself torn. His loyalty to Meghan grew fiercer with each perceived slight, each tabloid attack, and each whispered comment from palace courtiers. Looking back, friends say this was when the seeds of discord were truly planted, not just between Harry and the institution, but between Harry and the very identity he had known his entire life. The honeymoon period began to fade as reality set in. Their every move was dissected by the press. Their relationship with William and Kate became increasingly strained, and behind closed doors, frustrations mounted. Meghan reportedly felt unsupported by the palace machinery. Harry felt helpless, once again reliving the trauma of watching a woman he loved come under siege from the media and, in his view, from the very family that should have protected her. It's easy to understand why Harry felt he had to take a stand. The ghosts of his past loomed large. He had lost his mother in part because of the relentless pressures of royal life and the intrusive press. He was determined not to let history repeat itself. But in his quest to shield Meghan, he was also pushing away the people and traditions that had shaped him. By the time Meghan announced her first pregnancy, the cracks in the facade were becoming harder to conceal. Reports surfaced of tense meetings, fraught family gatherings, and a growing sense that Harry and Meghan were carving a separate path, one that would eventually lead them out of the royal family altogether. And yet, to the outside world, the fairy tale endured. Photographs of the couple holding hands at engagements, Meghan cradling her baby bump with a serene smile, Harry beaming with pride as he spoke about fatherhood, all of it painted a picture of happiness and harmony. But those closest to the couple knew better. There were arguments behind closed doors, whispered frustrations, and a sense that Meghan was struggling to adjust to life within the firm. She reportedly felt isolated, unheard, and constrained. And Harry, caught between loyalty to his wife and loyalty to his family, felt increasingly alienated and misunderstood. Their story was still being written, but the tone had shifted. The romance that had once seemed so effortless was now shadowed by complexity, conflict, and growing disillusionment. And as we will explore in the chapters ahead, this early period, so full of promise, so rich with symbolism, would, in hindsight, reveal all the warning signs of a relationship that was perhaps destined to end in heartbreak. Long before she crossed paths with Prince Harry, Meghan Markle had already crafted a carefully cultivated narrative for herself. Born in Los Angeles in 1981, she grew up in a world far removed from palaces and coronets. Her father worked as a lighting director in Hollywood. Her mother, Doria, a yoga instructor and social worker. From a young age, Meghan's life straddled two worlds, one of relative comfort and privilege compared to many, but far from the aristocratic circles of British royalty. Even as a child, those who knew Meghan say she exhibited extraordinary determination. Teachers recall a bright, articulate student who possessed a sharp intellect and a sense of self-confidence that belied her years. She was ambitious, not in the pejorative sense so often attributed to women, but in a deeply intentional way. From her teenage years, she seemed to know she wanted a life in the spotlight. Her decision to pursue acting was a natural extension of that drive. After graduating from Northwestern University with a double major in theater and international studies, Meghan navigated the competitive, often unforgiving world of Hollywood. For years, she landed only minor roles, brief appearances in television shows, small parts in films. She was, by her own admission, the briefcase girl on Deal or No Deal, standing silently on the game show stage, smiling for the camera. Yet behind that smile was a fierce resolve. Meghan wasn't content to fade into the background. In interviews, she spoke about the rejection she faced as a biracial actress, often considered not white enough or not black enough for certain roles. But rather than let the industry's biases define her, she carved out her own space. In 2011, her big break finally came, a lead role as Rachel Zane on the legal drama Suits. The show gave Meghan a platform, a steady income, and a devoted following. By the time she met Harry, she had spent years honing her image, not just as an actress, but as a public figure, humanitarian, and lifestyle influencer. Her now-defunct blog, The Tig, provided a window into her aspirations. It was filled with curated content about fashion, travel, food, and empowerment. Meghan was positioning herself as more than just an actress. She was becoming a brand. Observers note that her involvement in humanitarian causes was genuine, but also carefully aligned with her personal brand strategy. Whether visiting Rwanda as a global ambassador for World Vision or speaking at United Nations events, Meghan demonstrated an acute understanding of how to leverage her visibility for impact and for reputation. When she met Harry, she was already a woman of the world, familiar with celebrity culture, the power of the media, and the art of image management. For Meghan, every public appearance was an opportunity to build her platform. She understood the symbiotic relationship between press exposure and personal influence in a way that few in the royal family ever had. Some insiders now point to this period as the key to understanding what followed. Meghan did not stumble into fame by accident. She pursued it, fought for it, and shaped it with remarkable precision. When she began dating Harry, the interest from tabloids was immediate and intense, but Meghan navigated the frenzy with ease. She was media savvy, experienced in interviews, and adept at crafting a narrative. For Harry, this experience was both reassuring and appealing. Meghan seemed to offer guidance and confidence in a media landscape that had long felt adversarial to him. She wasn't intimidated by cameras or headlines. She knew how to work them. But critics would later argue that this same quality revealed something more calculating. That Meghan saw Harry not just as a man she loved, but as an opportunity, a platform on which she could project her carefully crafted image onto the largest global stage imaginable. At this stage in their relationship, such claims felt absurd to Harry. He saw Meghan's past as proof of her resilience, her independence, and her ability to thrive despite obstacles. To him, she was the woman who had succeeded on her own terms. A perfect match for his desire to break free from royal constraints. Yet in hindsight, observers suggest that Meghan's Hollywood instincts and her ambition to build a lasting legacy of her own may have been a driving force behind many of the decisions that would later fracture their lives. Her media literacy, her focus on personal branding, and her ability to command attention were assets she carried into the relationship, but they were also seeds of future conflict. As the relationship intensified, Meghan's past achievements and her ability to manage her image took on new relevance. With Harry at her side, she wasn't just an actress or a blogger anymore. She was a royal. Every move she made carried amplified weight and symbolism. Her transformation from Hollywood starlet to Duchess of Sussex was seamless on the surface, but behind that surface was a woman who had long honed her instincts for power, influence, and reputation management. The question that would later haunt Harry was this: did he truly know the woman he married? Or did he fall in love with the image Meghan presented, a polished, curated version of herself shaped by years of navigating fame? In the beginning, Harry dismissed any suggestion that Meghan's ambitions were anything but natural and admirable. But as their life together progressed, the alignment between Meghan's goals and their relationship began to feel less coincidental and more strategic. Was it possible that Meghan had entered the relationship with a clear-eyed understanding of what it could offer her? A leap from actress to duchess, from influencer to international figure, from celebrity to icon? Friends of Harry now reflect on subtle signs that, in retrospect, hinted at Meghan's strategic mind. Her confidence in front of cameras, her comfort in the public eye, and her skill in navigating interviews, qualities that initially attracted Harry, would later contribute to his growing unease. And so the stage was set. A relationship that appeared to be rooted in love, but was also shadowed by questions of motive and ambition. In this chapter of their story, Meghan's early life, her drive, and her mastery of her public image provided both the foundation for her success and the cracks that would eventually appear in her marriage. By the time Harry began to confront these questions, years later, the damage had already been done. In the quiet corridors of Kensington Palace, whispers began almost as soon as Harry and Meghan's relationship became public. The speed at which their romance unfolded was breathtaking even by modern standards. But for a royal court steeped in centuries of protocol, it felt reckless, almost surreal. The public was enchanted. Their relationship seemed spontaneous and passionate, exactly what the monarchy needed to refresh its image. But behind palace walls, aides and senior courtiers watched with mounting concern. Harry, once known for his carefree bachelor antics, appeared utterly captivated, perhaps even bewitched. In less than 2 years, he had transformed from the fun-loving prince to a man singularly focused on protecting, promoting, and preserving his relationship with Meghan. Their courtship, as told by friends, was defined by intensity. From the moment they met, they were rarely apart for long. Meghan's life in Toronto, where she filmed Suits, became punctuated by secret flights to London, while Harry's schedule increasingly revolved around opportunities to see her. Observers say this was no ordinary dating phase. It was an all-consuming attachment. Harry reportedly sought Meghan's advice on matters beyond their relationship, leaning on her insight in his dealings with the press, his charitable initiatives, and even family tensions. Meghan quickly became his emotional anchor. But not everyone viewed this as a healthy bond. Friends who had known Harry for years remarked that he seemed different, withdrawn from long-standing friendships, more defensive, less willing to tolerate dissenting opinions. Meghan, too, was described as confident, but also decisive, unafraid to voice opinions on matters royal brides traditionally steered clear of. What some saw as love, others interpreted as control, and the pace at which the relationship advanced only deepened suspicions. In a remarkably short span, Meghan had transitioned from Harry's secret girlfriend to his official royal partner, culminating in their engagement announcement in late 2017. For most royal couples, this timeline would have raised eyebrows. William and Kate, by contrast, had courted for nearly a decade before marrying. Yet Harry appeared determined to defy convention. His protectiveness over Meghan was absolute, and he bristled at any suggestion that their relationship was moving too quickly. When William reportedly advised caution, encouraging his younger brother to take as much time as you need, Harry allegedly took offense, interpreting his brother's counsel as an insult to Meghan herself. This moment is now widely regarded as an early turning point, a fracture between the brothers that would widen over the coming years. What had once been a close, almost inseparable sibling bond became strained, distant, awkward. Amid this turmoil, Meghan continued to demonstrate a remarkable capacity for adaptation. She navigated royal protocols with apparent ease, learning the mechanics of walkabouts, engagements, and royal duties at lightning speed. She charmed many within the royal household initially, impressing them with her work ethic and polish. But her very confidence, her decisiveness, and her reluctance to defer to tradition also set her apart, and not always favorably. Within palace circles, a narrative began to take shape. Meghan was difficult. Staff who had served the royal family loyally for decades felt overwhelmed and, at times, dismissed. Reports began to emerge of tears, tense meetings, and an increasingly frosty atmosphere behind palace doors. Harry, determined to protect Meghan, saw these reports as yet another manifestation of the same dynamics that had haunted his mother. To him, this was history repeating itself, and he would not stand by silently. His loyalty to Meghan only deepened as public scrutiny intensified. But quietly, some courtiers and even family members began to wonder whether this was truly a romance built on mutual understanding, or whether Meghan's swift ascent into royal life reflected a more strategic calculation. Had she positioned herself with precision? Was she leveraging her charisma and ambition not just to win Harry's heart, but also to place herself at the center of one of the world's most powerful families? For Harry, these were questions he would not, entertain at the time. In his eyes, Meghan was his soulmate, a woman who had braved an entirely foreign culture, endured relentless media hostility, and embraced a role that few could truly understand. Yet the signs were there. A whirlwind romance that upended long-held royal traditions, a fiancée who had rapidly established herself as a force in royal circles, and a prince who seemed increasingly isolated from the only family he had ever known. It was a dynamic that concerned those closest to him. Not because they doubted Meghan's charm or capabilities, but because they wondered whether Harry had truly paused to consider the magnitude of the life he was building with her. Was this a love story unfolding at an accelerated pace because two hearts had found each other across continents? Or was it a union fast-tracked because one party saw a unique and fleeting opportunity, a chance to step from the world of Hollywood celebrity into the rarefied heights of global royalty? In retrospect, these questions loom large over the early days of their relationship. But at the time, love, or what seemed to be love, overrode every hesitation, every caution, every whispered doubt. By the time wedding invitations were sent out, the machinery of royal tradition was already struggling to keep pace with a relationship that defied its rhythms. And Harry, caught up in the heady rush of emotion and idealism, seemed oblivious to the growing unease around him. It was, to all appearances, a fairy tale. But perhaps it was a fairy tale moving at a pace too fast for reality to sustain. The world watched as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped onto the steps of St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle on May 19, 2018. It was a day of celebration and symbolism, a meticulously choreographed event blending centuries-old royal tradition with modern touches that seemed designed to signal change, diversity, and progress. The wedding was more than a union of two people. It was a global spectacle watched by millions. From the vibrant gospel choir to the inclusive speeches, every detail was carefully curated to showcase Meghan's unique place in the royal family and to send a message that the monarchy was evolving with the times. But beneath the dazzling ceremony and heartfelt vows lay layers of complexity that few outside the palace walls fully understood. For Meghan, the wedding was a monumental personal achievement, a crowning moment after years of hard work, reinvention, and ambition. It marked her full entry into the British establishment, a transformation from Hollywood actress to duchess. But it also thrust her under an unprecedented level of scrutiny and expectation. The media frenzy surrounding the event was overwhelming. Every aspect of Meghan's appearance, behavior, and even wardrobe choices were analyzed, praised, and criticized with an intensity rivaling that of the most senior royals. She became a symbol, a beacon of modernity for some, a lightning rod for others. The royal family, meanwhile, was navigating uncharted waters. Embracing Meghan meant grappling with the realities of race, class, and tradition in ways the monarchy had rarely confronted openly. For some family members, the wedding represented hope and renewal. For others, it sparked discomfort and resistance. Palace insiders later revealed that tensions were already simmering beneath the surface. Meghan's refusal to conform to certain traditions, her outspoken nature, and her close bond with Harry unsettled longtime courtiers. The couple's desire for greater privacy clashed with the palace's expectations of openness and ceremony. Moreover, Meghan's presence exposed fault lines within the royal family, particularly between Harry and his brother William. The brothers' relationship, once close, became strained as Meghan's influence grew and family dynamics shifted. From a public perspective, the wedding was a triumph, a fairy tale with a contemporary edge. The world embraced the multicultural ceremony, the diversity on display, and the couple's evident affection. But for Harry, the day was bittersweet. While he celebrated his love and commitment, he also sensed the challenges ahead. The spotlight would shine brighter, the scrutiny would intensify, and the pressures to conform would increase. Meghan's transition into royal life was swift and demanding. She adopted patronages, launched charitable initiatives, and quickly became a vocal advocate on issues like gender equality and mental health. Yet, her approach often clashed with royal protocols emphasizing discretion and tradition. Critics accused Meghan of overstepping, of seeking the spotlight for herself. Supporters argued she was a breath of fresh air, bringing authenticity and passion to the monarchy. Meanwhile, Harry found himself increasingly torn between loyalty to his wife and allegiance to his family. His efforts to shield Meghan from criticism often led to public disputes with the media and his own relatives. The wedding, spectacular as it was, marked the beginning of a complex and fraught chapter. It was a celebration, yes, but also a moment that crystallized the tensions, hopes, and fears that would come to define Harry and Meghan's time as a royal couple. Behind the scenes, the pressures mounted. The fairy tale had become a high-stakes drama, with everyone watching, judging, and waiting to see what would happen next. Following their high-profile wedding, the spotlight on Meghan Markle intensified exponentially. She was no longer just Prince Harry's partner. She was the Duchess of Sussex, a global figure with the power to influence culture, politics, and philanthropy. But Meghan's ascent didn't stop at royal duties. Her ambitions extended far beyond the palace gates, into building an empire uniquely her own. From the outset, Meghan showed a keen understanding of branding and media. She expertly navigated interviews, social media, and public appearances with a savvy that was unmistakably honed by years in Hollywood. Unlike many traditional royals who maintained a strict distance from commercial enterprises, Meghan appeared eager to blend personal influence with entrepreneurial ventures. The launch of Archewell in 2020 marked a defining moment. Presented as a charitable foundation dedicated to compassionate service, Archewell quickly became a central platform for the couple's philanthropic efforts. But it also served another purpose, the cornerstone of a sprawling brand that included partnerships, content production deals, and media appearances. Shortly after the foundation's unveiling, Harry and Meghan inked a multi-million-dollar deal with Netflix to produce documentaries, scripted shows, and children's programming. Their Spotify podcast deal followed, promising intimate conversations on topics ranging from mental health to social justice. These ventures positioned the Sussexes not just as royalty, but as influential content creators in a rapidly changing media landscape. For Meghan, this was a natural evolution. Her early career in television had taught her the importance of narrative control and audience engagement. With Harry by her side, she was crafting a new kind of royal identity, one that combined advocacy with entertainment, activism with celebrity. Yet this blending of roles was not without controversy. Critics accused Meghan of exploiting her royal status for personal gain, charging that the Sussex brand blurred the line between service and self-promotion. Some royal observers argued that such commercial pursuits were antithetical to the traditional ethos of the monarchy. Within palace circles, unease grew as the Sussexes' ventures appeared to operate with increasing independence. Their desire for financial autonomy, coupled with reported tensions over security costs and official responsibilities, fueled speculation about their long-term commitment to royal life. Harry, meanwhile, found himself navigating a complex identity crisis. The once carefree prince was now a businessman, a media personality, and a global advocate, all while carrying the heavy expectations of his birthright. His loyalty to Meghan's vision was unwavering, but the pressure to reconcile these roles took a toll. Behind closed doors, some royal aides expressed frustration over the Sussexes' control over their narrative and public appearances. Meghan's assertiveness in managing media relations was both admired and resented, seen by some as a challenge to the palace's carefully maintained image. Despite the criticism, the Sussex brand thrived. Meghan's fashion choices sparked trends. Her speeches resonated with younger audiences. Her philanthropic work drew attention to causes often overlooked by the establishment. She was a figure who commanded attention, respect, and influence on a scale few royal spouses had achieved. But as the empire grew, so did the stakes. Every public move was scrutinized not only for its content, but for its implications, what it said about loyalty, ambition, and the future of the royal family. Harry's realization that Meghan's use of his royal title and family connections was central to this empire's rise came gradually, but with increasing clarity. The couple's departures from traditional royal roles, the commercial deals, the media strategies, all painted a picture of a carefully crafted ascent that hinged on Harry's unique position. This was more than just a marriage. It was a partnership forged in ambition, opportunity, and media mastery. As Meghan's brand expanded, Harry began to grapple with the consequences. Was the empire they were building sustainable? Was it a source of strength or a wedge driving them apart from the institution Harry was born into? The answers to these questions would prove to be pivotal in the years to come. As Meghan's star continued to rise and the Sussex brand took shape, an undeniable shift was occurring within the British royal family, a rift that would become one of the most talked about and scrutinized in recent history. At its center was Prince Harry, a man caught between loyalty to his wife and loyalty to his birth family, navigating a delicate and often painful balancing act. Historically, the British monarchy has been a symbol of unity, continuity, and tradition. For centuries, royal families around the world have projected an image of solidarity, emphasizing the importance of duty and collective identity. Yet beneath this polished exterior, personal conflicts and family tensions have always existed. What made Harry's situation so unique and consequential was the public nature of the disagreements and the high-profile personalities involved. From the outset, tensions were evident. Harry's relationship with his father, King Charles III, had long been complex, shaped by the shadow of Princess Diana's tragic death and decades of palace intrigue. Charles reportedly struggled to understand Meghan and her impact on his son. The prince's protective stance toward Meghan sometimes translated into public criticism of his father and other senior royals, further deepening the divide. Harry's bond with his older brother, Prince William, was also severely tested. Once inseparable, the brothers found themselves increasingly distant. Sources close to the family described their interactions as strained and awkward, a far cry from the camaraderie of their youth. Meghan's arrival and the couple's apparent break from tradition were seen by some as catalysts for this estrangement. Palace insiders began to speak of a culture clash exacerbated by Meghan's assertiveness and Harry's growing alienation. The couple's decision to step back from senior royal duties in 2020, often referred to as Megxit, was both a symptom and a cause of the fractured family dynamics. This unprecedented move shocked the monarchy and the public alike, signaling a seismic shift in royal protocol. The fallout from Megxit was intense. Media outlets around the world speculated about behind-the-scenes conflicts, painting a picture of a family divided by loyalty, race, tradition, and modernity. Harry and Meghan's subsequent interviews, particularly the explosive conversation with Oprah Winfrey, laid bare grievances that had simmered beneath the surface for years. Harry spoke candidly about feeling unsupported, about the pain of being cut off from his family and the institution he once belonged to. Meghan revealed struggles with mental health and alleged racism within the palace walls. Their revelations prompted widespread debate, sympathy from some quarters, and backlash from others. Within the family, relationships remained tense and fragile. Efforts at reconciliation were complicated by the depth of hurt and mistrust on all sides. The public witnessed rare and carefully managed appearances, but the private reality was often starkly different. Harry's rift with the royals was not merely a personal matter. It symbolized broader tensions within the monarchy about its future direction, its relationship with the media, and its handling of issues related to race and mental health. For Harry, the choice to distance himself was both a protective measure and a painful concession. Despite the estrangement, Harry's love for his family persisted. He often expressed hope for healing, but also recognition that the path forward would be difficult and uncertain. The family fracture left Harry isolated in many ways, deepening his reliance on Meghan and their shared vision for a different kind of life, one outside the traditional confines of royalty. But this isolation came at a cost. The distance from his family, the loss of royal privileges, and the intense media scrutiny weighed heavily on Harry's emotional well-being. As the couple charted a new course, their relationship faced challenges that went beyond the public eye. The very forces that had brought them together, ambition, media attention, and a desire to break free from constraints, also placed enormous pressure on their marriage. This chapter in their story is marked by conflict and heartbreak, loyalty and betrayal, love and loss. It reveals how the personal became political and how family dynamics can shape the course of a life in ways both visible and hidden. As Harry wrestled with his place in a family that sometimes felt foreign, he was forced to confront difficult truths about trust, loyalty, and the cost of following his heart. Behind the public smiles and polished appearances of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, a different story was quietly unfolding, one marked by tension, disagreements, and private struggles that few outside their inner circle would come to know. The early days of romance, filled with promise and hope, gave way to moments of conflict and confusion as the realities of their life together set in. Close friends and insiders have revealed that the couple's relationship, while deeply affectionate, was also volatile at times. The pressures of royal life, coupled with the intensity of media scrutiny, created a crucible in which even the strongest bonds might strain. The arguments reportedly range from the mundane to the profound, disagreements about public appearances, handling of security, decisions about charitable work, and how to respond to press attacks. But more than the subjects themselves, it was the emotional toll of constant pressure that seemed to weigh heaviest on the couple. Meghan, accustomed to a certain level of autonomy from her time in Hollywood, reportedly chafed at the restrictions imposed by royal protocol. Harry, meanwhile, struggled to balance his protective instincts with the need to maintain some semblance of royal duty. Some friends described Meghan as strong-willed and unapologetically direct, qualities that could lead to clashes with palace staff and, at times, with Harry himself. Reports surfaced of heated exchanges, moments when Meghan's frustration boiled over into tears or anger. Harry's own demeanor changed as well. From the carefree prince known for his humor and warmth, he became more guarded and serious. The emotional burden of shielding Meghan and managing the fallout of their public battles left him exhausted and vulnerable. One close confidant noted that Harry felt like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, trying to protect Meghan while also dealing with his own sense of isolation from family and tradition. The media played a significant role in amplifying these private struggles. Stories of discord and difficulties within the couple's marriage became fodder for tabloids eager to sell headlines. Every disagreement was magnified, every tension blown out of proportion. Yet beneath the sensationalism lay genuine challenges. The couple's different backgrounds, personalities, and expectations created a complex dynamic that required constant negotiation. Questions arose about how Meghan's ambitions and Harry's royal identity could coexist. Was it possible to maintain a marriage where one partner sought independence and entrepreneurial success, while the other was bound by centuries-old traditions? These tensions culminated in moments of crisis, times when friends feared the couple might separate, or worse. Yet Harry and Meghan remained committed to each other, united against external pressures even as internal conflicts simmered. It was during these difficult times that Harry began to see patterns and behaviors that would later cause him to question the foundation of their relationship. The realization that Meghan's priorities might differ from his own, that her use of his royal status was more strategic than emotional, started to take hold. This chapter of their story reveals the complexities of love under the relentless glare of public attention. It shows how private struggles, when combined with external pressures, can erode even the strongest bonds. As we continue, we will explore how these tensions played out on the global stage, particularly during moments that would define the couple's public narrative and Harry's evolving perspective on his marriage. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle sat down with Oprah Winfrey in March 2021, the world expected a candid conversation. What they didn't expect was the seismic impact it would have on public perceptions, royal relationships, and the very fabric of the British monarchy. The interview was more than a tell-all. It was a turning point, a moment where private grievances were aired on a global stage, forever altering the narrative around the Sussexes. From the outset, the interview's tone was strikingly different from typical royal communications. Harry and Meghan spoke with raw emotion and unfiltered honesty about their experiences, challenges, and pain. They described feelings of isolation, lack of support, and the crushing weight of media scrutiny. But perhaps most explosive were the revelations about alleged racism within the royal family and the mental health struggles Meghan endured in silence. The couple's decision to break the long-standing royal silence shattered centuries of tradition. Royals had been trained to bear grievances privately, maintaining a united front at all costs. By choosing openness, Harry and Meghan risked alienating their family and the institution itself. The fallout was immediate and intense. Supporters praised the couple's courage, applauding their willingness to speak out on issues like racism and mental health stigma. Critics accused them of betrayal, opportunism, and disrespecting the monarchy. The British tabloids, already hostile, escalated their attacks, painting Meghan as manipulative and Harry as weak. The interview polarized public opinion like few royal events before it. For Harry, the interview was a cathartic moment. A chance to finally express the pain and disillusionment that had been building for years. Yet it also deepened the chasm between him and his family. The allegations and criticisms were met with denial and silence from the palace, intensifying the sense of estrangement. Meghan's revelations about suicidal thoughts and feelings of abandonment struck a chord globally, sparking conversations about mental health and institutional responsibility. But they also fueled a media firestorm that often obscured the human behind the headlines. The interview exposed the complex dynamics at play, a couple trying to redefine their identities outside royal expectations, a family struggling to adapt to modern challenges, and a public grappling with conflicting narratives. In the weeks and months that followed, Harry and Meghan's relationship with the monarchy remained fraught. Attempts at reconciliation were complicated by unresolved tensions and divergent public messages. The Oprah interview did not mark the end of their struggles, but rather a new chapter, one where transparency came at a steep personal and public cost. As the dust settled, Harry began to articulate a growing awareness of Meghan's ambitions and the strategic nature of their partnership. The interview was a public declaration, but privately, doubts and questions about loyalty and intent started to surface. This moment, more than any other, crystallized the divide between public perception and private reality, a divide that Harry would grapple with as he navigated the painful process of coming to terms with his marriage's unraveling. Behind the headlines and public declarations, a quieter, more unsettling revelation was taking shape, one that would profoundly alter Prince Harry's understanding of his marriage and the woman he had chosen as his partner. The discovery of private emails and documents suggested that Meghan Markle's ambitions and strategies extended far deeper than the public had ever imagined. It began with a leak, an inadvertent or perhaps deliberate slip of sensitive communications that found their way to Harry's inner circle. These emails, exchanged between Meghan and influential Hollywood executives, outlined detailed plans for her career and brand development, plans that predated her relationship with Harry and, strikingly, appeared to anticipate leveraging his royal status for maximum impact. The contents painted a picture of a woman deeply strategic, calculating, and intent on building an empire. Discussions about potential media deals, charitable foundations, and brand partnerships hinted at a vision carefully mapped out long before the fairy tale romance captured global attention. For Harry, the initial reaction was disbelief. How could the woman he loved, the woman he had fought so fiercely for, be orchestrating such a calculated ascent? The shock gave way to confusion and then, gradually, to a painful recognition that parts of Meghan's story had been carefully curated, and that he had been an unwitting participant in a grand design. The emotional weight of this discovery was immense. Private confrontations followed, marked by heartbreak and anger. Harry reportedly challenged Meghan with the evidence, seeking explanations, assurances, and honesty. But the conversations, friends say, were fraught with tension and evasiveness. In the days and weeks that followed, Harry retreated into reflection and doubt. The foundation of trust in their relationship seemed shaken. What had once been seen as shared ambition and partnership was now viewed through a lens of suspicion. The discovery also underscored the immense pressures Harry faced in reconciling his love for Meghan with his duty to his family and himself. The emails and documents suggested a level of planning and intention that, if true, called into question the sincerity of their shared journey. Media outlets soon caught wind of the revelations, though details remained closely guarded. Rumors of Meghan's premeditated plans for fame and fortune circulated widely, adding fuel to an already blazing public controversy. The situation intensified Harry's growing sense of isolation. The man who had once seemed so sure of his path now grappled with doubts not only about his marriage, but about the people and institutions around him. This chapter reveals the profound impact that hidden truths and broken trust can have on even the most high-profile relationships. It also highlights how ambition, when entwined with love and loyalty, can become a source of profound conflict. As Harry navigated this difficult terrain, the lines between victim and participant blurred, and the quest for clarity became a driving force in his decisions. In the next chapter, we will explore how these revelations influenced Harry's private confessions and his evolving perspective on the marriage that was unraveling before his eyes. In the quiet, unguarded moments away from cameras and public scrutiny, Prince Harry revealed a truth that had been festering in the depths of his heart for some time. To those closest to him, he confided a devastating realization. "She used me to build an empire. I see it now." These words were not spoken lightly. They carried the weight of heartbreak, betrayal, and a profound sense of loss. For a man who had sacrificed so much, his royal title, his family relationships, and his very identity, for the woman he loved, this admission was both shattering and cathartic. Friends who heard these private confessions describe Harry as deeply conflicted. On one hand, there was love and loyalty. On the other, a growing awareness that his trust had been exploited. The dichotomy left him torn between hope and despair. The confessions were marked by raw emotion. Harry spoke of sleepless nights haunted by questions he dared not voice publicly. He recounted moments when the facade of unity crumbled, exposing cracks too deep to ignore. In these intimate conversations, Harry grappled with the realization that Meghan's ambitions were not just personal dreams, but strategic moves, intricately tied to his royal status. The couple's shared narrative of love and partnership now felt, to him, like a carefully constructed veneer masking underlying motives. He expressed frustration at having been used as a stepping stone. A prince whose lineage and influence were instrumental in catapulting Meghan's brand to unprecedented heights. Yet, despite the sense of betrayal, Harry struggled with guilt, wondering if he had missed signs or ignored warnings. These private moments of truth were a turning point. Harry began to distance himself emotionally, wrestling with the painful knowledge that his marriage was not the partnership he had believed it to be. The impact extended beyond his relationship with Meghan. The confessions also revealed Harry's deepening isolation from his family and the royal institution. Feeling betrayed on multiple fronts, he found solace only in a few trusted friends and his own reflections. This stage of his journey was marked by intense introspection. Harry questioned not only Meghan's intentions, but also his own choices, how he had allowed himself to be swept up in a narrative that now felt hollow. Yet even amid despair, there was resilience. Harry's confessions were not just about pain, but about a determination to reclaim agency over his life and narrative. These revelations to friends set the stage for the eventual public announcement of his decision to divorce Meghan, a decision born from private truths finally laid bare. This chapter underscores the complexity of love, trust, and ambition entwined in one of the most public relationships of our time. The moment Prince Harry announced his decision to divorce Meghan Markle, the world reacted with a mixture of shock, sympathy, skepticism, and intrigue. The news rippled across social media platforms, news outlets, and royal commentary circles, sparking debates that were as much about the individuals involved as about the future of the British monarchy itself. Public opinion was deeply divided. Supporters of Harry expressed empathy for his difficult choice, seeing the decision as a courageous step toward reclaiming his own happiness and freedom. Many admired his willingness to speak openly about personal struggles and the challenges of his marriage, viewing it as a break from the traditional royal culture of silence and restraint. Conversely, critics seized upon the announcement as further evidence of discord and dysfunction within the royal family. Some accused Harry of betrayal, painting Meghan as a manipulative figure who had driven a wedge between him and his family. Conspiracy theories and tabloid sensationalism flourished, often overshadowing the genuine human emotions underlying the story. The announcement also reignited conversations about race, media bias, and mental health, themes that had become central to the Sussexes' public narrative. For many, Harry's divorce decision was seen through these broader social lenses, reflecting ongoing struggles with acceptance, identity, and institutional pressures. Within the royal family, the response was measured but tense. Buckingham Palace released a formal statement acknowledging the couple's decision, emphasizing the importance of privacy and respect during this difficult time. However, behind the scenes, tensions simmered. Sources close to the family reported a mix of disappointment, frustration, and sadness. The rift between Harry and his relatives, already wide due to previous events, seemed to deepen further. Attempts to manage the public fallout were complicated by the couple's own media-savvy approach and the palace's traditional communication protocols. Senior members of the royal family were reportedly concerned about the long-term implications of the divorce, not just for Harry and Meghan, but for the institution's image and stability. The couple's departure from official duties and their increasingly independent public profiles challenged centuries of royal norms. Media coverage around the world reflected this complexity. While some outlets treated the divorce as a private matter, others sensationalized it, focusing on salacious details and speculation. This dynamic mirrored the Sussexes' earlier experiences with the press, creating a cycle of public scrutiny and private pain. The announcement also affected the royal family's relationship with the public. Polls showed fluctuating approval ratings for various members, with some sympathizing with Harry's plight and others rallying behind the monarchy's traditional values. For Harry, the public reaction was a double-edged sword. While support from fans and advocates provided some comfort, the backlash and media frenzy compounded his sense of isolation. The very platform he had once hoped to use for positive change now felt like a battleground. The family's response, balancing between duty, discretion, and emotional complexity, revealed the difficulties inherent in managing personal crises within such a historic and public institution. This chapter highlights how deeply intertwined personal decisions and public perception are in the world of royalty, and how the fallout from a divorce can reverberate far beyond the individuals directly involved. Following the announcement of their separation, Meghan Markle found herself navigating a world both familiar and dramatically transformed. No longer just Prince Harry's wife, she was now charting a path defined by her own ambitions, influence, and vision, one that sought to extend beyond the shadow of royalty into a sphere where she could command power on her own terms. Meghan's transition was anything but passive. She embraced opportunities to amplify her voice in global conversations, particularly around issues like gender equality, racial justice, and mental health awareness. Leveraging her existing media presence and the connections forged during her time with Harry, she began to build a platform that was distinctly hers. Her post-divorce projects quickly gained momentum. Invitations to speak at high-profile events, partnerships with leading brands, and appearances on major media outlets showcased her determination to maintain relevance and impact. Her ability to engage with diverse audiences and articulate complex social issues garnered praise from supporters worldwide. Behind this public-facing success lay a calculated strategy. Meghan's team reportedly focused on cultivating a brand that balanced activism with entrepreneurship, blending philanthropy with personal growth narratives. The Archewell Foundation, once a joint venture with Harry, became a centerpiece of her independent efforts, serving as both a charitable organization and a vehicle for media production. Simultaneously, Meghan pursued creative projects that highlighted her versatility. Documentaries, books, podcasts, and collaborations with streaming platforms expanded her reach into entertainment and storytelling. These ventures allowed her to reshape public perceptions, moving beyond royal controversies to define herself as a multifaceted cultural influencer. However, this assertive approach also attracted criticism. Some viewed Meghan's post-divorce prominence as a continuation of what they perceived as an ambitious drive for power and attention. Detractors questioned the authenticity of her activism, framing her endeavors as self-serving rather than altruistic. The media's polarized portrayal mirrored broader societal debates about race, gender, and privilege. Meghan became a symbol, both celebrated and vilified, reflecting the complexities of public figures who challenge established norms. Within these dynamics, Meghan's relationship with Harry continued to evolve. Reports suggested that while the divorce marked a legal and emotional separation, their shared history and ongoing co-parenting responsibilities created an enduring, if complicated, bond. As Meghan advanced her independent agenda, she appeared increasingly comfortable in her role as a global figure with influence that transcended royal lineage. Her ability to navigate this transition underscored her adaptability and strategic acumen. This chapter illuminates the intricate balance Meghan sought between personal empowerment and public expectation, revealing how ambition and identity intertwined in the life of a woman who once entered the royal family as a partner and emerged as a powerful force in her own right. In the quiet aftermath of the divorce announcement, Prince Harry found himself in a period of profound reflection, a time marked by soul-searching, grief, and an urgent need to redefine his identity apart from the woman he once believed was his soulmate. The journey from betrayal to freedom was neither straightforward nor painless, but it was a path he knew he had to walk alone. Harry often spoke privately of the paradox that defined this phase of his life. On one hand, the end of his marriage represented a painful loss, the dismantling of a dream he had cherished deeply. On the other, it was a release from a relationship he increasingly saw as fraught with manipulation and unmet expectations. His reflections revealed a man wrestling with complex emotions, love shadowed by disappointment, hope tempered by reality, and loyalty challenged by the need for self-preservation. The process of disentangling himself from a relationship so publicly scrutinized was compounded by his status as a royal figure, a man whose every word and gesture carried immense symbolic weight. Amid these challenges, Harry found solace in reconnecting with parts of himself that had been overshadowed during his marriage. He turned inward, embracing therapy, meditation, and moments of solitude as means to heal and regain clarity. Harry's conversations with trusted friends and advisors often centered on themes of freedom, the freedom to speak openly, to pursue his passions, and to live without the constraints that had previously defined his existence. He expressed a growing commitment to authenticity, vowing to live life on his own terms rather than those prescribed by tradition or expectation. Yet, underlying this newfound liberation was a lingering sense of betrayal. Harry grappled with feelings of having been used, not only personally but symbolically, as a tool in a carefully orchestrated narrative that prioritized ambition over affection. This betrayal was not simply about Meghan. It extended to the complicated relationships within his family and the institution he was born into. He questioned the loyalties of those around him and reflected on how trust could be so easily fractured in worlds where power, image, and legacy are paramount. Despite these challenges, Harry's reflections were also marked by resilience. He recognized that growth often comes from pain and that embracing vulnerability was essential to moving forward. As he contemplated his future, Harry envisioned a life where he could balance his roles as a father, advocate, and individual free from the burdens of his past. He spoke of hopes to build a legacy defined by compassion, service, and honesty, values he believed had been compromised in his recent experiences. This chapter reveals the deeply human side of a man often portrayed through the lens of royalty and celebrity, a man learning to reclaim his story amid the wreckage of a love lost and the complexities of public life.